I'm like, hey, what's up? Hello, welcome back to Articulate with Steve McChance. Listen. We've all been going through a lot. You know what I mean? Mostly, people that aren't white and aren't men like me. But, we've all been going through a lot. And, I think one thing that we really need to remember is that to help you get through something, you help other people get through other things. Giving is getting, I know that sounds cliche, but I just wanted to set up this episode in kind of a fun way, because this week I was lucky to get Olivia Meade on. Olivia Meade has been a friend of mine since like the 8th grade. We have a deep and hilarious history together, and yeah, she's super awesome. Again, giving is something that Olivia really understands and really enjoys doing. I knew she worked at the homeless shelter for years. 2 years? I don't know. I think that's what she says. You listen and you'll find out. But yeah, so I realized that giving, especially at a time like this, is something that can help this movement that a lot of people are getting passionate about a lot. And it seems like Olivia gives a lot of avenues and a lot of backstory, and she has a great outlook on her experience doing it and helping out and volunteering and whatnot. So yeah, listen to this episode, see how she reacts to it, and hopefully it inspires you to do something similar. It's a good one. All right, enjoy. Okay.
Here we go.
And we're live. Olivia, come to cog.
Frost in the oven!
Ladies and gentlemen, Olivia Meade.
Hello.
It's been, since, 8th grade?
Yeah.
8th grade?
Yes,
been friends since 8th grade?
Yeah, 14.
14?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
6 years at least.
Long history between us.
Big
and
time.
It's a terrible history. Nobody should ever hear it.
No, it's really bad.
Ever, yeah.
Everything is sucked.
Everything in between.
I don't understand how we're, still communicating with each other at all.
I should have stabbed you.
You really should have.
And you should have stabbed me.
I know, I should have slit your throat.
Jeez. Anyways, here we are.
Yes.
And so here we are to talk about a lot of things.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now.
Yes.
And it's really sad, isn't it?
It is. It's a very fucking crazy time to be alive, and a very disheartening one as well. Very
disheartening.
Yeah.
I don't know how people are going to do it. But, that's the only option is to keep going. Right?
Yeah. You can't stay stagnant.
Can't stay stagnant.
You cannot.
Because time will keep you from doing that.
Hopefully.
Anyways. Probably.
Hopefully,
yeah. But there are some good things that we can do, and I want to get into that. But first, let's get into your background a little bit.
Okay.
So you go to UC right now, right?
Yes, I do.
What's your major?
Electronic media.
And your minors? Certificates.
My certificates? Yes. Certificates. I'm doing a certificate in journalism and a certificate in business français.
Wow.
So.
Business français.
Yeah.
Wow. Bilingual.
A cultured woman.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, that's awesome. I'm proud of what you've become.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
it's nice to see what you've become as well.
Well, I'm not anything, but we'll see.
Shut up. We're working on it.
We're working on it still. Exactly. But yes, I mean, you're learning culture because you're interested in that culture and traveling, and that's a great passion to have because you see people and you meet people and get different perspectives, and it's awesome. And I wish I had that passion as well.
Well, you do. I mean, you talk to all kinds of different people and want to get different perspectives. Yeah, you
in a way. Anyways.
Working on it.
Yeah. But anyway, so we grew up in Lebanon, right?
Yes.
Lebanon is a very culturally white area.
Yeah, white as hell.
White as hell.
White as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely,
and
sir.
It's a fun country, conservative, village ice cream parlor-esque type of area.
Yes.
And then you moved to Cincinnati.
I did.
What was the transition like?
Okay, so I've lived in Lebanon most of my life, but I did when I was very young, probably it was kindergarten through 2nd grade. I went to Sycamore, the Sims Elementary School over in Montgomery. Oh. And
I think I knew that.
Yeah, so I was just really young, and there were people from all over the world that went to school there. We literally had flags for there were probably 40 or 50 countries that people came from, and they were students in literally kindergarten through 4th grade. So it was I had that background where it was super diverse, and like we had a World's Fair in the gymnasium, and like people from those countries were representing each one of them, which was cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So like there was that, like when I was very young, I had like a little more diversity.
Okay, yeah.
And then like I came to Lebanon, and I mean it was the complete opposite.
Oh, for
Everybody
sure.
looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
And
But at least that was while you were still being shaped and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
So I feel like I just had a little bit more context and background, I guess, just from a young age, sort of at that point. But then again, like, you know, Lebanon, again.
3rd grade, you're like walking around like, yeah, I know black people.
Yeah.
What's up?
I have black friends.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, then, you know, again, Lebanon, white country, Republican, that whole thing. And moving to Cincinnati, it's very different. So it definitely took a little bit of adjusting, but it wasn't anything I was uncomfortable with.
Really?
No, not at all.
I don't know, because personally for me, like, I don't consider myself racist or anything, but
of course,
coming from the suburban area into a city area in general, I just feel uncomfortable. And in city areas tend to be more racially diverse, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So I don't know if it's because of the racially diverse part or if it's just because of the area or something, but I mean, moving down into that, especially your street and your room has a door right outside
that
into the
that
street.
was the part that was uncomfortable for me. It wasn't so much like I was honestly really excited to like be in a more diverse space and like meet all kinds of different people and you know, learn more about different cultures and backgrounds and perspectives and like gain that knowledge just because I mean I think that makes you a more well-rounded person in general.
Course, yeah.
So I was looking forward to that. But where my apartment is situated is like right on the top of like one of the very populated streets and then also like a very just busy street.
Tell everybody where you live.
Oh no, I'm not. They plenty of people know already. You've probably been to my house if you're listening to this, honestly. But anyway, that was scary, and I was afraid of just like crime more than anything, I guess, kind of being in an urban area and having my bedroom like literally having a door to the outside, like literally the street, like the corner and everything.
Yeah.
So that was a little nerve-wracking, and it was something that it took me a long time to kind of get used to. But yeah, that's probably like the most uncomfortable thing, and then just like kind of watching again because like coming from such a like
suburban area
and a white area, like just making sure that like my implicit bias of like just what I've grown up with or around like doesn't come out because it's not what I consciously think or like genuinely believe, but like you still want to just be aware of.
I saw it like in like high school. I remember seeing a tweet is like the first thing that comes to your mind is what you've been conditioned to believe, and then when you correct that in your mind, that's what you actually believe. You know what I mean? So it's you know, it's always that first initial reaction that you have to get over.
Definitely.
Before you actually judge how you feel.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So.
I'm glad. I don't know. For me, it would have been a really like uncomfortable. I had this conversation recently because I went to the protest downtown on Monday, and it's like, see. You know, I was thinking it's like having like a Black Lives Matter sign was almost like it was almost like a safety net for me personally, but really it's not a safety net. It's just like you shouldn't be thinking about it like that. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be thinking about it like that. You should be thinking about it like I'm supporting this movement or whatever, as opposed to I'm protecting myself from the opposite of what could happen if I don't support this.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just something that, again, it's that first initial reaction, and then you have to think about why you're actually doing it, and that's what you actually think.
It's so important to like recognize your implicit bias, especially like you and I both being like white people and coming from a point of privilege. Like, just recognizing like what, like you said, you've been conditioned to kind of think just with the people that you're around or the area that you grow up in, and then like, you know, you've chosen to be educated and, you know, like learn about different things and different perspectives and be accepting and, you know, that kind of thing. So like just to make sure that that's like what you always kind of put out instead of like whatever it is that you don't intend to go out into the world, even if you do. But so I mean, just trying to like be conscious of that was it wasn't difficult necessarily, but it was just like a new kind of thought to have, because like you can literally say anything you know, back home and nothing would come of it.
Exactly.
Which is like really fucked up.
It's really fucked up. You can say anything back in your house.
You could.
And you don't even, it's not even a second thought. You don't, I mean, and this was what we were growing up in the era of like cancel culture and like actual progressivism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like before, you know, even like the term gay and like, I mean, N-word was always a bad word, but like there would be people that threw it around pretty
willy-nilly.
Loosely,
Yeah.
When we were kids, because that was a cool thing in like 6th grade or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, coming from that and being able to realize as you, I mean, again, it does take some time and you have like some age really to kind of come upon realizations.
Definitely.
And figure that stuff out and be comfortable with it, you know. So at what point did you start feeling like you could help? You know,
like I could help?
Yeah. But like was there like a moment where you surpassed the uncomfortableness of moving there and then?
Yeah, it was honestly kind of a pretty natural progression in a way, because, okay, so I was I'm very thankful that I had this opportunity, but I was able to get a scholarship, to go to school at UC, and to be able to keep that, you have to do, like, so many hours of community service, and I've been, like, I mean, I feel like I'm generally, like, a relatively compassionate person. I hope.
Relatively.
I'm not trying to like.
I'm compassionate. What about it?
I'm a compassionate ass bitch. What the fuck? No. But no. Anyway, so they like, you know, everybody just has to do this, and there's all kinds of things you can do, and you can get it done like quickly. Or you can do weekly stuff or whatever, and so. But at the root of it, they like really hammered home that they wanted you to find something that like you felt, you know, passionate about and like you wanted to make a difference in. And for me, I found, I just noticed like walking to and from class in Lebanon, there's like maybe 1 or 2 homeless people that you see, you know, on the street. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you know who they are, you know, you recognize them. But in Cincinnati, there are homeless people literally every block. You know, and like walking to class, I would literally, and I mean, again, like my house is maybe like a 3-minute walk from campus. I'd see like 5 or 6 homeless people every day on my walk there. Yeah. So I was like, okay, this is obviously like a big problem. So why don't I like...
And this is just in Cincinnati too.
Exactly.
Like, it's not even like a huge city.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, it's so bad everywhere. But anyway, so I was like, well, you know, this obviously is like, I see it. It's very present in my community. What can I do to help that? So, one of the places that I ended up finding was the St. Francis Seraph Ministries soup kitchen. And I was like, you know, I'll do this. It's like a couple hours a week. And you just go in and, you know, help serve dinner and talk to the people, clean up, and then you leave. But so I went, and I immediately loved it. I loved like getting to see all these different people and talk to them and like make these connections. And like literally just like see, you know, being like what you're doing to try to help the community, because like, I mean, these people are like, we're open for 2 hours and they were coming in for like 6, like not first and seconds or thirds, like they would come through the line like 6 times. And I mean, it's just like there's something else going on here. There's just so many people from different backgrounds, but it's majority African American too that come through there, and people with mental illness or substance abuse issues. So there's all kinds of different reasons that people end up in that position, but we'll get into that a little more later. But so I ended up going there, and I loved it, and I just continued to do that, and that ended up you know, kind of sparking this passion to try and help the homeless community in Cincinnati.
That's awesome.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, and I would hope that would inspire anybody else to do that, and I think that's a good reason to at least start volunteer work. You know, it's a daunting task at first. Yeah. But once you start it, you know, hopefully it ignites that thing.
Definitely.
That passion in you.
And I mean, even if you haven't seen something like that, you know, firsthand in your community, like going someplace and then seeing it and like helping, it's just like, it takes so little effort on my part. Like, like you said, like a couple hours a week. It's a couple hours, and you're just, I mean, just to like be kind and smile and like recognize these people, or like if you're walking down the street, say hello, and you know, don't just like walk past them and ignore them. And so many people do that, and it's so dehumanizing. And it's like they're people just like you and me, and they've probably been, you know, in the same position that you and I have been in at various points in our lives. And I mean, you know, it's just like you cannot treat people like they're nothing when they are. And so just to like do something that simple that like can really create a positive effect in a person's life, it's like, why would you not, you know? So yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, just a quick example of from like again, I have never lived in a big city. I've only lived in Athens, Ohio, which is like a college city. But from this movie called Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee.
Beautiful film.
It's a great film, but there's this guy called the mayor who's just like a homeless guy. Yeah. He does like work for, he'll sweep a gas station and they'll give him a beer or whatever, and all these kids are like, they're like kind of like talking shit to him. They're like, man, like, you should have made the right decision, like, put your mind to the right thing and being where you are. And, as like kids, as like a 21-year-old, as kind of younger kids, it's like, that sounds like right now, it's like, anything's possible, we're invincible, we're never going to end up homeless, you know what I mean? But when he comes back, he's nice to every single person, but he comes back with like, you don't know what I've been through, you know what I mean? Yeah. You don't know what my life has seen, what like turmoil that I've gone through, and it's not always, chance wins out on faith sometimes, you know what I mean? Life happens.
Absolutely.
There are things that you can't control. And it's a really unfortunate,
It is. It is. There's a lady that I know who is, she's kind of a liaison between the homeless community and like city officials. She was a teacher actually, like had a full-time job, family, everything. And like shit just happened, and like I believe she was in some kind of accident and got addicted to opiates.
Oh man.
Like pain pills, and then it just kind of went from there. And she ended up becoming homeless, but like, I mean, she literally was set, like prior to that. And it just kind of all unfolded really quickly, and she got sober, but she's still homeless. But she's educated, and she's not stupid by any means. She's incredibly smart and well-spoken. And, like, you might not know that just from, like, looking at her and whatever, like, your implicit biases, to people who look a certain way or dress a certain way or are a certain class. But, yeah, I mean, like, she's just so well-spoken and has really been such a force trying to, relate things from the community to city officials in a way that's really powerful. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it can happen to anybody with any kind of situation. It could be a drug abuse thing. It could be, like you're late on rent and you're a single mother, or, I mean, like mental illness. There's some, it really could.
So, I mean, that kind of, we'll get in a little bit more, but like first, like, what are like the characters that you've met?
Characters?
What I mean? Yeah, through this whole thing,
Okay, yeah. So one guy that comes to mind immediately, I'm not gonna like say his name, but we'll call him Clyde. I've been like working on a documentary about homelessness a little bit over the past year or so, and I met this man at the public library in Cincinnati, which is where a lot of homeless people go because they've got like computers and social workers there and a lot of resources to try and help you get back on your feet. But I was there and I was trying to like find some people to either talk to and interview or just kind of get to know. He came up to me and he had the biggest smile on his face. And he was just so sweet. And he was like, "Do you want to take my picture or what?" And I was like, "Sure." So we got to talk.
Do you want to take my picture?
I know. I was like, all right, sure.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Confidence. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. So we got to talking, and he had moved around a lot, and he'd been in Florida for a few years, and he ended up coming back. He's from Kentucky originally, but he came to Cincinnati, and because his mother was sick, and she was dying, so he made his way back here. And he like had literally like that was like his only family member, and she ended up passing away, so there was like no place for him to go after that. And he was homeless for like I think maybe 6 months to a year, so he was on like the shorter spectrum of people that I've met who have been homeless. But I mean, I just have never met somebody so like just instantly kind, I guess, and like just radiating joy. So he got involved with the Homeless Coalition, and they like helped him find housing and a job and everything. So that's a really good organization. We'll get into that more later. But yeah, Clyde is amazing. And then I met a woman, she's one of my favorites. Her name's Heather.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. No, she's beautiful. But she tends to kind of hang out near where I live. Like I see her on my walk to class a lot. And again, like, she's just, I don't know, everybody that I've talked to, like, I don't know, I've met some interesting people at the soup kitchen, but she's also just very, very sweet, and I don't know entirely what her backstory is. She hasn't opened up too much, but we just talk normally, like, just like anybody else, you know?
Yeah, and you can't expect them to. I mean,
no, and I'm not going to ask them that, because, like, that's, you know...
It's personal.
Absolutely. But I guess in terms of, like, kind of kooky characters, okay, wait, never mind, I know exactly who to talk about.
Yeah.
My brother, he also was homeless for a little while. He suffered from substance abuse issues, and one of his best friends, his name is James, and his wife's name is Carly. We'll call her Carly. Yeah. But they were homeless on and off for 5 or 6 years, and she's got diabetes, and they lived in and out of tents in various places, but James, he loves to rap. He's got he's very passionate about that. He's a white rapper.
Yeah.
His
white
nickname,
rapper,
yeah. His nickname is Chucky.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Sounds
and
fire
he's got like red hair,
okay.
which
So
is kind of where that comes from. Yeah. Yeah. But he, like, God, he's something else. I adore him. He's so funny, but he definitely, like, God, I don't know. There's just all kinds of people. And I can't really say anything bad about them. They're just like...
So, what kind of rap does he do?
Oh, God. It's like all freestyles, and he records...
All freestyles?
All freestyles. He never writes anything.
That's impressive.
It is. And honestly, it's not bad. He's honestly really good. But yeah, he every time I've, like, come over there to, like, hang out with him, and I'll just spend time with him. I've interviewed him a few times, too. But... He always shows me, like, his new raps, and he just does it all on his phone on, like, this little voice recording app, and he, like, rips beats off YouTube, and I've, like, offered to, like, make beats for him, and I did, and then he didn't want to use it, and then I was like, hey, you want to record a song, man? I'll bring my stuff over. I brought my interface and my mic and everything, and I sat there with him. He wanted to write my sister a song for Christmas. So he, like...
I think I remember that one, actually.
Yeah, he ended up... not writing it, he freestyled the whole thing.
Nice.
I brought all my equipment over, and he did not
want it at all.
No. He said, nope, I'm going to use my phone. So he did that his way, but it was a beautiful gift. He's something else. Him and Aaron are both, they're just kooky, man, but I love them, absolutely. Yeah. They're great. That's
awesome.
But yeah.
Yeah, cool. So. Yeah, so, I mean, I know that you said mental illness is a big factor that plays into homelessness, which is really unfortunate because people are just born with that.
Absolutely.
Automatically. And, I mean, you've had experience with that, obviously, which is unfortunate because you're insane, but...
I know. Whoops.
No, but it is really sad. But it seemed like something that you wanted to get into, like the cause of the homelessness is.
Yeah.
Homelessness.
Yeah,
that have happened.
But, yeah. So there's a lot of different causes, obviously, and there's a lot of different avenues that people...
And we mentioned before, it's like something that we can't even really comprehend right now. Like now, we're just like, why would I ever be homeless? You know what I mean?
Exactly. You feel so invincible, and you have no idea what life can throw your way.
Exactly.
You have no idea.
No idea.
None at all. And yeah, I mean, it could be mental illness. It could be, some kind of addiction.
Yeah, you could just get like an aneurysm out of nowhere.
Honestly, yeah. Or you could have cancer and you can't afford to pay the medical bills, and you lose your home, and then it goes from there. Right. And then another really big thing that is very prevalent in Cincinnati, obviously, is gentrification and development, which is a thief of communities and homes and affordable housing in particular. And I mean, all of those things, there are people who get displaced from new building projects in OTR, for example, like literally all the time. And that's another big cause for all of that. So, I mean, when you combine all of those, you've got a ton of people who are just kind of like left, left behind. And, there's just nothing to help them with. But yeah, the development and the gentrification, like being in Cincinnati again, is like something that I see literally every single day. Like, wherever you look, you can see the effects of that.
Yeah.
You see the 3CDC posters. You see, one block is, like, completely, like, just a wreck of, like, old tenements. And then you've got, like, these brand new, like, sparkly luxury condos and, like, fancy little hipster liquor bars or whatever it is. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like,
apartments.
Yeah, or, like, smoothie shops and all this kind of stuff. Or particularly, like, the trendy bars and... Of course, the FC Stadium that's coming, which is such horse shit, but...
No, yeah, I mean, I've heard, like, one story, I think Anna told me, is, like, about how there was just, like, actually one guy who provided affordable housing for people like that, and then they wanted to buy his property to add it on to their amount of property that they already had, and then he ended up dying mysteriously. Yeah, and, like, a weird thing, and they somehow bought his property, and...
It's so fucked up.
Yeah.
It's so fucked up.
It's real fucked up.
And, gentrification and development like that has such a strong foothold in the culture of Cincinnati.
And it's crazy because when you talk to people, like, moving into an area, they'll be like, oh, yeah, it's gentrified. They'll say it like it's a good thing. You know what I mean?
It's not!
They'll be like, yeah, it's gentrified. Like, you're fine. You should move in.
Oh, it's safe. Washington Park is safe now. Don't worry about it. God, it's like, that's such a self-centered worldview. It's like, you're already safe so many places, and you have a home, and you have all of these things, and then,
you have Ohio.
Exactly.
Most of Ohio. Seriously.
You have the state, and you don't want these people to have a park, like, that they can just, camp out in, or whatever it is that they need, and, of course, like, there has been a reduction in crime, which, in that area, but that doesn't mean it's not happening elsewhere.
Right.
And it's really just a fancy way of saying, like, we want black people to leave this area.
Yeah.
And, that kind of gets in. I saw a really cool photo from the protests that have been going on. It was some journalist, I forget his name, but it's like a picture of where, how, like, the restaurants have been, like, providing, like, space in the streets for tables so they can do social distancing and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like there are people who are sitting on the street in, like, their little restaurant area. They're all drinking, like, craft beer. They're, like, enjoying a Sunday brunch or whatever. And then on the other side of that blockade are all of the protesters.
Oh,
and it's like, those are the images of the two Cincinnatis that we have. We've got, like, the people who are buying into all of the gentrification and all of these, like, luxuries that they've provided in OTR and the cute little shops and, the breweries and everything. And then there's, like, the nitty-gritty underbelly of it, what that really makes up all of it, and that's where all of the injustice is happening.
Yeah.
And I just thought that photo was, like, really so powerful. Yeah, it's so powerful. Because even if, like, and apparently, like, the people who were sitting at the table, like, came out and said, like, oh, we're in support of it, whatever. It's like, well, you're looking very, like, complicit, right now.
Yeah. They posted a black square, though, so it's okay.
Oh, yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah.
And everything's fine. Racism is solved.
Yeah.
With that one image.
Yeah.
But...
is that something that could lead into that story that you were talking about that you texted?
Yes. Okay, so to take it back a little bit, like I said, gentrification and development has been... It's got a long history of affecting the African American community in Cincinnati. So to take it way, way, way back, let's take it to the 1800s for a second. Mom.
Oh, we're going.
Yeah, we're going real far back. So and then we'll get into the awful Kenyon-Barr project. But
the Kenyon.
Yes.
We'll get into it.
Yes. But anyway, so. Obviously, like, you hear all these stories about, like, slavery and the Ohio River being, like, this dividing line, and then you cross that and you're in the free state of Ohio and you're in the north and, you're making your way upwards. But Cincinnati put on the guise of a free state while still trading with, like, slave states and having, like, all of these, like, slave trade laws here and, like, Fugitive Slave Act and everything, and racism was awful during that time, obviously. But essentially, the black people who relocated here were forced to move down by the riverfront, and there was one neighborhood in particular called Bucktown And there were several other ones, but there were a bunch of race riots around the time of, there was the Margaret Garner trial, which if anybody is familiar with Beloved, that's what that book is based off of, by Toni Morrison. Was a slave woman who came here, and they chased her, and she ended up killing her own child because she would rather them die than have to go back into slavery.
Wow.
And it was a huge trial that took place here, and it was very divisive in Cincinnati.
I mean, I can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely, because there was a large abolitionist presence and then also a large pro-slavery presence. So, I mean, this, like, fight and segregation has gone on in the city for a very long time, to say the least. Anyway, so all of the African Americans typically lived by the river because it was close to the industry and, like, steamboats and everything, which is where they would often work. And it was called Bucktown, and there were all kinds of race riots, and the neighborhoods would get burnt down, but that one kind of stayed around, and it became this large African American center of culture in Cincinnati as the years progressed. And eventually, that was known as, like, the West End, and the Lower West End in particular. And this is where it kind of ties in a little more to what happened in the 1950s with the Kenyon-Barr project.
Mm-hmm.
So OTR used to be double the size that it is today. It extended all the way to the Ohio River. And essentially where, like, 75 runs through now, and there's, like, Longworth Hall and some other things, that was where this neighborhood was. And, I mean, there were all kinds of businesses and, homes, and the beautiful architecture that exists in OTR, it's like it was there, it was all of that. And in 1959, I believe, there was a decree by the city that was done in the name of industry that said that they needed to claim that land in order to basically, like, create a space for, like, new factories and the highway to run through. Yeah, and all kinds of stuff like that. And so they decided to tear down the entire neighborhood. And they did not warn residents much at all.
Wow.
They gave them 40 days to completely relocate and move out and, like, close their businesses. And then they tore it all to the ground, and they promised assistance to the people that lived there, 26,000 to be exact, and only 500 of them were white, if that doesn't tell you how racially motivated this decision was. And it was described as a slum and all of, like, just a dilapidated neighborhood, when in fact it was, like, a thriving community, and there were all kinds of businesses. And I mean, it was just a huge, huge travesty, loss for the city and for the African American community. So they were given, like I said, like 40 days or so to relocate. There was no assistance from the city whatsoever, so they did not receive, like, any funds to try and find new housing, so they were left completely alone to try and figure it all out, with people's, like, businesses being robbed, their churches, their homes, like, everything just, like, literally razed to the ground.
Yeah, demolished.
No, and I mean, that's why, like, I believe it's Mount Auburn. Prior to that, it was like 75% white and like 25% black, and after that, it was 75% black and like 25% white.
Really?
All the white people left.
Because black people had to go somewhere.
Exactly, and they had the money to, like, move out into the suburbs. So instead of trying to create an integrated community, they just left and ignored the problem again.
Wow.
And that's what keeps happening.
Yeah.
So, but that's it just is, like, so disgusting to me that happened. And
75 is a shitty highway.
It's awful. It's the
just take
worst
71.
highway. I know.
Just take 71.
If you're going to Kentucky, just go 71. It's
71.
fine. It's easier. There's never construction.
Exactly.
There's an eye roll there. But yeah, and the funny thing too about that is that where that community was, and, like, right by Longworth Hall, is where, like, homeless tent camps keep popping up. It's like, what if there was housing there, you know? And I don't know, it's just, and I talk to people about it, or I'll ask them, like, have you heard of this? And, like, there's so many people who are native to Cincinnati who have no idea that neighborhood even existed. Yeah. And I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know at all, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I found out earlier, like, this past school year about that, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, that was not that long ago.
Like 100 years? Less than 100 years?
No, literally, yeah. Less than 100 years ago, 70 years ago.
Crazy. I mean, there's so many things that we've never heard of about, our own town, but our own culture, our own history of America, of the world, there's so many things taught from, like, a white perspective.
Yeah, it's written by the majority.
The majority, yeah. The winners, they say.
Yeah.
The winners, yeah.
The winners, fuck that.
Yeah.
Fuck that mentality.
Yeah, it's so messed up, and
yeah.
I think, I'm glad to have you on here to, like, spread that. Now I know I'm going to be able to tell people and whatnot. And, I think that's what we need to start doing, is having these types of conversations.
Yeah, even if they're, weird or uncomfortable or whatever it is because of where you came from or what you've been around, like, it needs to happen, and we need to educate one another on these issues and just the history of where we come from and, like, how similar it is to today in different ways, because, that happened then, but it's still happening now because it's happening in OTR, and, it's happening.
Did you see that video of the guy, like, yelling at the 16-year-old kid where he's just like, 10 years ago I was in the same spot you are, and 10 years from now you're going to be in the same spot I am. Like, figure something out. Yeah,
you got to do something different.
You have to do something different. And unfortunately, there hasn't been any solution so far that has actually fixed it. And, will there actually ever be,
Yeah, I know. That's the thing, and you and I were kind of talking about this earlier. I feel like in order to, like, truly fix that, we all, like, as an entire nation, need to just shift our mentality on that, and also, like, restructure the systems that are in place.
Which is insane, an insane task to accomplish.
I know. It's just so ingrained in the fabric of everything that our nation is, which is, like, really awful because it's completely against the ideals of what our nation is, too.
Yeah.
So it's a huge contradiction,
right.
And we all need to think and work together to try and figure out a way to unify and bring compassion and justice, because it's not happening.
Because it hasn't happened.
It hasn't. It hasn't, right?
Years.
No,
the 60s were, like, the biggest protest that we've ever seen for black people. And that was the 60s. And we're 2020 now, and they're still getting fucked over. You know what I mean?
No, and granted, like, I do believe that our generation has a more progressive mindset.
I would like to believe.
I'd like to believe that, yeah.
Yes.
At least it's more accessible.
People
don't necessarily choose to do the research or take the time to educate themselves, and that's really disheartening.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, like you said earlier, like, we all have the ability to
be enlightened.
Yeah.
And be self-aware and be aware of the environment that's going on and the issues, you know what I mean? And I'm not a political person, but there are things that need to, you just have to...
You can still see the basic wrongs of that's happening.
Of the world. And what we were talking about, what is kind of at least a little uplifting is the unification that we're seeing, the unifying factors that we're seeing across the world. It's not even just America that's protesting right now, which is not... I haven't looked into history at all, but I don't believe during any of the big riots of the 60s, or even there was riots back in the 2009 after there was a recession and everything, that reached as far, as large a scope as what we're seeing today.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, like, social media definitely plays, like...
Social media definitely helps.
It plays a huge part in all of that, and spreading the word and making people worldwide aware of, the injustices that are happening, or...
and they're not only happening in America.
No.
America's the loudest about it because we're the loudest about everything.
The most obnoxious motherfuckers on the planet.
Yeah. But, they're happening everywhere. And to be able to see that we're not the only ones, and to be able to see that other people are in support of it is almost... it's like, it makes you feel sad that we have to do it, but it also makes you feel uplifted that so many people are coming together to fight against that. Definitely.
It's really it's encouraging to see that, and to know that, like, you're not alone in that fight. I mean, nobody is, obviously, but, like, here, at home, or wherever it is, it's really nice to see the unification of all kinds of people coming together, and it does provide some kind of hope in a really dark time.
In a really, really, really dark time.
Yeah.
2020 is crazy.
It has been a roller coaster.
For sure.
This year has ridden Diamondback like 6 times. And they have not gotten off yet. They're literally about to throw up, but they're like, no, bring it.
Keep coming.
Bitch, I got a fast pass and I am going.
I remember at the beginning of the year, before coronavirus, when we thought the Australian fires were like batshit crazy. Yeah, we were like, what's next, aliens or something?
I know, and then it was like, no, war with Iran.
Of course, yeah.
I know, oh my god, and then...
Brexit takes place this year. I mean, it doesn't really apply to us, but it's still batshit crazy too.
I know, well, if they care about our shit, we should like at least care about their shit.
A little bit,
yeah. Give them like a... Yeah. We got enough to deal with, but, we'll toss you a wink.
Yeah.
I'll like on Facebook.
But it's good to know that people like you exist in the world that want to help out. Yeah, and want to put effort into those organizations. And I think that's something that you also wanted to talk about a little bit, is the efforts that could go into this.
Yes, definitely. So, for one, this is directed to people in Cincinnati, but also, like, just in general, like, look at the groups and organizations that are in your area and, like, where you can help.
We're going to provide a link in
the
bio of this.
Yes.
That links you to all, small businesses all run by Black owners and stuff like that.
Yes. But for one, volunteer. So find a local soup kitchen, a homeless shelter you can volunteer in.
Takes 2 hours. At most, a week, hopefully more. Yeah.
Yes, if you'd like to,
if you find a passion in it.
Definitely, and I would hope that people will see the benefit of it and understand, and come to love it. Yeah, because it really is. It's like.
How long have you been doing it?
I've 2 years now. 2 years. 2 years, yeah, because I started my the fall of my freshman year of college, so I've been doing it for 2 years. But yeah, if you can just, it's such a beautiful way to connect with people from all different backgrounds and to really kind of just look at your community and be able to directly help. So that's one way. You can, and particularly during this time, if you'd like to support small businesses that are Black owned, like Steve said, we'll provide a link to all of the Black owned small businesses in Cincinnati. It's from the voiceofblackcincinnati.com, and they've got a lot of resources there as well if you're interested in that. But to tie a little more back into homelessness, the Greater Cincinnati Homeless Coalition does a lot of super awesome work. And they actually drafted up and got this passed in 2017 or 2018, I believe. But it's a trust fund for affordable housing. So the city of Cincinnati is putting tax revenue into this trust fund, and all of it is supposed to go to building and creating affordable housing for people in Cincinnati, because there is currently a need for, I believe, 28,000 affordable homes, probably more than that.
Wow.
Because most people just cannot afford it at all.
Right.
Working people can't, because minimum wage and multiple children and
a recession.
Absolutely.
Depression.
Yep. And development, because the rent prices just increase everywhere. And actually, wait to backtrack a second. Some numbers for you real quick.
Oh.
So the city of Cincinnati spent $15 billion. Billion with a B. On development in Over the Rhine alone.
That much money exists?
Yeah, in the past 5 years. 5 years. And yet homelessness is worse than ever, and there is no affordable housing, because all of that went to luxury condos and all of that kind of thing for people who are literally don't need to live there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's just no affordable housing. The need is so great. So that's super screwed up. But anyway, so that organization does a lot of really good work to try and help provide that. And they're running a campaign right now to try and continue to raise money for that trust fund. But by the end of the year, I think the city had only put in enough for 17 units of housing. And again, the need is 28,000. Wow. So, which is also the number of people, a little over that got removed from Kenyon-Barr. So you wonder what would have happened if that neighborhood was allowed to
flourish.
Exist. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that organization does a lot of really good work. And they organize protests as well and marches. I went to one in the fall, and it was beautiful. It was so cool to see people from all different backgrounds come together, kind of like the ones, that are going on now, obviously, in support of African Americans in our communities. But they're awesome. And let me see here. I had a couple other lists there.
For sure.
Basically just like do your research and educate yourself too.
Yeah.
Learn about like the community you come from and the history that it has with African Americans in Cincinnati in particular. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of shit that keeps happening over and over again.
Oh yeah.
Like
history repeats itself.
Absolutely, it always does. So just take the time to like recognize your bias, educate yourself.
Watch Spike Lee movies.
Yeah, literally, like hear the voices of people
who have been oppressed.
Absolutely. Sign petitions.
I mean, you've seen the posts.
Yeah.
I mean, if you haven't, then you're living under a shell.
Yeah, or you just have like an awful social media community too.
Yeah.
Not to. But I'm not about that. But yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do, and if you just take a second to look into it all. And,
it's real easy to find, and you don't have to donate if you don't have. I don't have money.
I mean, if you're in college and you don't have that, you can protest or you can sign a petition.
You can stream the things that every stream gets them $1 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many options nowadays because of the internet. Luckily,
absolutely. So stuff. I mean, the internet is beautiful and awful, but
and
it does some
it
does some great things for people too.
That it does. All right.
If you use it properly, you'll be able to pick up a thing or two. But right. I mean, just be aware, be kind, be compassionate and understanding, and treat people like they're people because they are. Because they are.
They are literally people.
Yeah.
And especially. I don't know. I mentioned this in the last episode, but it's like Africans were the first evolved human beings. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They were the ones who created
the
evolutionary line. Like, what are you talking about that they don't mean? What do you like? I don't know.
I know.
And that's something that I didn't even think about. Like they did, but we didn't learn it like that. We didn't learn. Yeah. It. We learned it as they were. At the beginning, there was Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe in that, I mean, that's just... They were just white people to start out with. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how all the races came about. I don't think anybody knows at this point. Maybe just different...
Yeah.
Different things going on in different parts of the world. Anyways, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, and I'm not well-educated enough on that. I know.
Exactly. Yeah, me neither. Obviously, me neither. Me neither.
Articulate.
Yeah.
Tip of the
hat. But do we cover everything? Do we get all your notes and everything that you wanted to talk about?
I think that might be just about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just be aware. Keep your eyes open.
Keep your eyes open. Use your forms of expression. Make a song about it if you want.
Yeah. Be creative.
Make a poem. Make a
write
a painting. Right, exactly.
Yeah, just share the message and show your support and help where you can and
love one another.
Yeah. But yeah.
All right, Olivia. Thanks for coming out and spreading some knowledge on all over us.
Absolutely.
Sure.
That was a little disorganized, but I hope that I at least did a little bit of justice.
I believe you did. Yeah, you're always too judgmental on yourself. That was way more. I have learned so much. I'm pretty sure every listener would agree.
Thank you.
Yeah. No,
I hope so.
Awesome. Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming out so much. Okay, bye. Right. Yeah. So, do the things that we talked about, that she talked about, mostly her. But do good things. Do the right thing, in fact. And educate yourself, all that sort of stuff. I also just want to say, I think this has been clouding a lot of people's lives, especially mine. I don't know. It's hard for me to focus on anything else. It's all over, you got to stay educated, and mental health is also important. So don't forget about that, something that helps, at least for me. I know it's privileged of me to say, but coming back to the present, if you're listening to this or sitting on your phone and looking at all these things, remember that you're in your own house and you have your own space to breathe and live and think about these things. You're allowed to do that. Like, you're not too preoccupied with actually being, I mean, I don't know you, obviously, and maybe you are going through something, but a lot of you are just, you're not going through something that's actually painful to you or tormenting you. Maybe something emotionally, but that's emotionally, that's internally, that's something that hopefully, it's hard, but you're going to get through it, There are some things that people don't come back from. And I don't know, I think it's just important to remember that. And worst comes to worst, you can always come back to reality, focus on your senses, be like, okay, this is the now. I don't know. That's what I try to do at least. There's birds chirping at somewhere at some point, usually. I don't know. Yeah, but thanks for listening. Appreciate it, and have a good one. Thank you. Okay, bye. Having kids?
Oh, yeah.
12 years? You'll be 21. That's 32.
Yeah.
What if you're barren by then?
Fuck you for accusing me of not having enough eggs to last me.
That shit happens, dog.
It does, but it does not happen as often as you'd think.
True.